Imagine this. You've just been laid off from your job and bills keep coming in. You don't have any certainty about your future. And then someone comes up and they say, hey, everything happens for a reason. Just stay positive. And so that's just one example. That is an overwhelming time in your life, and the only advice that you're receiving is to stay on the bright side. You're expecting a lifeline. Instead, you're getting some sort of glittery motivational quote. And in some cases, it can actually do more harm than good. Let's explore this complex, often hidden side of positivity that people talk about, but they truly don't understand the complexity of it. There are other examples that I can give you of how they manifest. So let's say a person's dealing with a health scare. Their world's been turned upside down. They don't know what's happening. They're scared. And yet people around them are giving them the message, you got this, it could be worse. Maybe someone's telling you about their Aunt Sue who has something far worse. Or maybe another example, someone is grieving. They're trying to make sense of an empty space that's been left behind. And then here we go again. Someone's coming up and they're telling them, your loved one is in a better place. Just stay strong. Now, don't get me wrong. These people, they probably mean well. They're trying to help you. But here's the thing. Why do you feel worse then when they're trying to help you? Why does it feel like instead of easing your pain, you have a pressure now that you should be positive, and now you feel like your pain is even bigger? So it's just added to it. Stay with me, because understanding why this is happening will change the way that you approach your emotions and you approach people around you that you care about. Headlines like, why telling people to stay positive can be harmful, to the rise of toxic positive culture, have really started to shed light on this growing issue. Toxic positivity has become a buzzword, but I'm going to tell you, it's not just a trendy phrase. It's something that is actually affecting all of us, and it is actually spreading a lot faster than you think. And where do you think it is spreading the most? If you guess social media, you're correct, because lots of the platforms will amplify this problem in many different ways. There's many different hashtags out there, such as good vibes only, and this can really be promoting unrealistic and often harmful portrayals of constant happiness. We've seen a lot of influencers who will share their curated versions of their lives, and they're always happy, perfect smiles, endless positivity. But I'm going to tell you, even they aren't immune to the backlash when the message of relentless positivity begins to become tone deaf, especially during times of crisis. Now, this relentless push for positivity can actually be doing the opposite of what it is intended to do. So it's intended to lift you up, but most often it makes you feel isolated, because usually you're feeling like your struggles aren't validated. So we need to recognize that while positivity, it does have its place, and I'm going to get into why later on, but it's not a one-size-fits-all solution. In order to understand that, you need to understand exactly what is toxic positivity and how can we avoid it. Toxic positivity is more than just a phrase. It's actually an emotional experience that many of us have actually dealt with. It's when the insistence of staying positive will invalidate any genuine feeling of pain that you are experiencing. So it could be heard in phrases such as, just stay positive, or it could be worse. Depending on what you're going through, those phrases could dismiss your real and complex emotion. So think about it. When someone is grieving or struggling with anxiety, or maybe you're facing a personal crisis, and then someone comes along and says, just be positive. Now that might sound helpful, but in reality, it often has the opposite effect, because it's making them feel like their pain is inconvenient to you, or that their feelings just simply aren't valid. They shouldn't be feeling that way. The truth is, not all experiences can or should be sugar-coated, and not all feelings are meant to be dismissed. Now, there's lots and lots and lots of clinical psychologists that have done a lot of work on this particular topic, and they will tell you that denying or dismissing negative emotions does not help them disappear. In fact, what's happening is that it often will make them linger longer, and amplify them. So now they're going to cause greater emotional distress. So that constant push for positivity could be contributing also to increasing feelings of shame. Well, why is that? Well, because people are going to be left wondering why they simply can't choose happiness. Real positivity isn't about denying the hard stuff, because I told you that positivity is actually in itself a good thing. It's how you're using it. And so when you're looking at real positivity, it's about embracing all of our emotions, the good and the bad, and finding a way to navigate through them. In fact, we understand that accepting our negative emotions can lead to better overall mental health, because we're giving ourselves permission to feel sadness. We're validating our emotions. We're allowing ourselves to process them. And ultimately, what is going to happen is we're going to heal from that. Because let's face it, life is complicated. All of us have faced moments of pain, moments of loss or fear, and it may be tempting to wrap everything up into a neat little bow of positivity. Actually, the healthiest thing that we can do for ourselves and others is to create a space for all of those emotions that you're experiencing. But more importantly, you have to listen without judgment and support, and don't try to fix it. So the next time that you're tempted to tell someone to just stay positive, try taking a moment and instead say something like this: I'm here for you. Or maybe even it's okay to feel that way. Because what we're trying to do is build a culture where all of our emotions are embraced and where we support each other. And we're supporting each other through the really happy times and also through the maybe not so happy times. But how do we do that? Aside from the examples that I gave you, let's talk about some specific ways that you can do that, and that you can try to avoid toxic positivity in your own life, and how you can offer real support to people around you. So how do you avoid falling into a trap of toxic positivity? Well, the first thing you need to do, and we touched on it briefly, is you need to recognize that all emotions, all of them, so the beautiful emotions, the painful emotions, all of your emotions are valid and they deserve to be felt. So we need to allow ourselves and others to experience a full range of human emotions without feeling pressure to paint over them with positivity. Because it can be uncomfortable when someone is experiencing what we would call a negative emotion. Negative emotions are things that don't make us feel comfortable, like fear or anger or even grief. So you need to think of emotions like a balance scale. So this means being positive is important, but it needs to be in balance. Because when we ignore those difficult emotions, we're upsetting that balance. And over time, when you do that, those emotions are going to find ways to come out, because you're not validating them. You're not giving them the light that they need. And when they come out because you've suppressed them, they're going to come out in some unhealthy ways. You're going to feel stress. You're going to feel anxiety. Maybe you're going to be angry. So what can you do then? Well, it's easy to start just by practicing emotional validation. So if someone comes up to you and they have a difficult situation, let's be honest, most of us we want them to feel better. So we will immediately try to cheer them up. It happens a lot. Maybe you're one of the rare people who've already done this work. But instead of trying to immediately tell them everything's going to be okay, let's try to replace that with things like, I hear you. That sounds really hard, for example, or I'm here for you. Validation doesn't mean, also this is important because a lot of people are afraid to say those things because they think that they're going to just amplify their pain or agree with what they're going through. No, it doesn't mean that any of that. It just means that you're acknowledging it within that person or maybe within yourself. And by acknowledging it, you're making a space for it. Another effective way to manage emotions that you're having, or maybe emotions from another person that's close to you, is through journaling. So journaling is very fascinating, a way on many different levels for healing. And I'm going to tell you exactly why. Because writing down how you feel, you're doing it without judging yourself. It's incredibly therapeutic. Why? Well, those pages are your safe space to process your thoughts. No one's reading it, so you don't have the pressure of trying to be different or putting a positive spin on them. It's okay, because you don't have to be happy all the time. And when you put your feelings on paper, you can see them in a different perspective. That said, it's important to understand that when we force ourselves or others just to stay positive, again, we're just telling them that these emotions are wrong. These difficult emotions, they are wrong. But every emotion actually serves a purpose. And this is the one thing that many people don't talk about, because they talk about, hey, validate all your emotions, accept your emotions, you can heal. I'm going to tell you that all of your emotions are actually serving a purpose. Let me explain. Fear, for example, many people tell you, why do you fear things? You should, don't fear this, do that, etc. Fear can keep you safe from certain situations, depending on the context. Sadness can help you process loss, and even anger can motivate you to make different positive changes. Yes, it could reverse in the opposite, but they have a purpose because it's about understanding and accepting that every one of your emotions has value. So when you're offering genuine support, when you're thinking about every emotion having value, it also means that you yourself are being comfortable with discomfort. Sometimes the best thing you can do for someone is to simply sit with them in their pain. You don't have to fix it. You don't have to say anything. Sometimes just being there is enough. When is the last time you've sat with someone in silence? A lot of us are uncomfortable doing that. There's a reason why. Now, we live in a society, like I mentioned, where this is running rampant. So how can you avoid toxic positivity in your life? Well, I told you that a few ways already. You can acknowledge and validate your emotions. So you can do that by using different phrases like, if someone comes to you, you can say, I understand this is hard for you. You can avoid minimizing statements, right? So you would want to stay away from statements like, it could be worse, look on the bright side, or compare their pain to someone else's. That's the worst. You can hold space for negative emotions, so you can let people feel, what they're feeling, and don't rush to make it better. Certainly practice self-compassion. So you want to allow yourself to experience all of your emotions and do not judge them, especially on your most difficult days. Don't judge other people's emotions. You can challenge toxic positivity very gently. If someone, around you is doing that, try gently letting them know that, yes, you appreciate their intentions, because I think most of people's intentions are good. But what you need is support and a space to really acknowledge and feel your emotions. Because I will tell you again, being positive, that's okay. We're talking about how you're using it. Real positivity doesn't ignore pain. I think that is a really main message. it's actually going to acknowledge it, it's going to make space for it, and then it's going to move forward in a very authentic way because you're embracing all of your emotions. And so what are you doing? Well, you're creating space for healing and true growth to happen. Now, how do we spot it? Sometimes it can be difficult to spot. I've given you some really overt ways, some obvious ways in which to spot it. But let's discuss how to spot toxic positivity in our everyday interactions and how to really build a culture of true, supportive, empathetic, people around us, and how to navigate situations where other people may be practicing this toxic positivity on a daily basis. Because let's face it, we're not always going to be able to avoid those type of people, or the people that don't understand that maybe that's what they're doing, because we're going to encounter people in our lives, and despite our best intentions, they're going to be engaging in things that we can see that are not healthy. And the key is to set boundaries and to practice empathy for ourselves, not just for ourselves, but for them. Because remember, a lot of the times people don't even know that they're doing this. They're just trying to help someone. So if someone tells you going through something, just cheer up, try letting them know that, you kind of need space to process what you're feeling. You don't even you do need space to process what you're feeling. So you can say something like, hey, I know you're trying to help me out, but I need to feel what I'm feeling. Sometimes being honest about what you need can actually open a deeper, more meaningful conversation with that person that's trying to help you. So let's not always assume that they know exactly what they're doing, because sometimes they don't. So if you sense someone is uncomfortable with negative emotions, and there'll be a lot of people that are, even yourself could be uncomfortable with them, gently help them understand the value of those feelings. Let them know that experiencing and acknowledging emotions is actually a bigger part of healing and growing. Also, always remember that it's absolutely okay to remove yourself from a conversation that doesn't feel supportive to you. So setting boundaries, that's where they come in. It's key to protecting your mental health. So, for example, if someone continues, even after you explain to them, where you're at with it, and they're just continuing to dismiss your feelings, it might be best to sort of distance yourself from that conversation, at least temporarily, because real life is messy. It can be messy. We face challenges, we face losses, we face setbacks, and it happens to all of us. And it's okay to not feel okay sometimes. And also, you need to understand something. Talking about toxic positivity, it could put you in a space where, and I've seen this online, and I've seen a lot of people do this. Oh no, any positivity is bad. No, being genuinely positive does not mean erasing pain, because this can have an opposite effect, right? So we can get so caught up in feeling like we must stay in our pain to avoid toxic positivity that we fail to see this. Because when someone is genuinely positive and they've done the work, it just means really that they've chosen to embrace all of the parts of life, so the good, the bad. So have you ever been in a situation where someone's positivity actually made you feel worse? Let's share our stories below and support each other no matter what kind of day we're having. And don't forget to subscribe and be a part of our community. We'd love to have you here. Take care of your mind, body, and soul.